We got married. We thought about having a kid. We thought we need a house. There was this new neighborhood under construction, so we bought in early, get in on the ground floor before the prices keep going up and up.
Megan and Patrick thought they were living the American dream, but then disaster struck.
We had been homeowners at the time, and our property had lost about 85% of its value.
Oh, wow.
We went from $285 and ended up at selling for right around $69K.
Oh, wow. Can we help them build a better relationship with money?
This $200,000 loss has just got this hangover effect. It's this cloud that's hanging over you. Welcome to Making a Millionaire. This is where we help our guests build their great, big, beautiful tomorrow. I'm Brian Preston, joined by Mr. Bo Hansen.
That's right, Brian. I am so excited. This is a show for millionaires and millionaires in the making, and we are so excited that today we get to sit down with Patrick and Megan. Guys, how are y'all doing this morning?
Doing great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank y'all so much for coming and letting us be a part of your financial journey. For the folks out there, though, that don't know who you guys are, give us a quick rundown. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your backstory? And then how do we get here to where we are today?
Sure. I'm Megan. I'm 45 years old. My husband, Patrick, we've been married for 20 years. We have lived all over the place. We started out in Florida. Prior to that was Georgia. We've been to New York. Now we're back in Georgia. So we bounced around a lot. We've gotten through, I think, the worst of the messy middle. And now we're hoping to kind of figure out the coasting plan to get us to the finish line.
Messy middle mean you got some kids in there?
Yeah, we got a couple of kids, a daughter 16 and a son 14.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're doing great.
Teenage years are awesome, right? That's like a super easy thing as a parent.
Yeah.
Honestly, compared to the toddler years, I'm liking it. So.
I like the sound of that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so 2 kids, 16, 14. What do you guys do professionally? What are your vocations?
I'm a civil engineer, work for a municipality.
And I'm a pharmacist.
Awesome. And have you done those jobs for your whole career?
No, I graduated civil engineering, worked land development in Florida, and then 2008 that fell apart a little bit. So did a complete career change and worked for a railroad as a locomotive engineer.
Oh, wow.
In upstate New York, and then came back down south. So now I'm back to being a civil engineer.
Now you say it fell apart. Is that because of like the Great Recession?
The Great Recession
time
yes,
thing?
land development in South Florida fell apart bad.
It was a hard time to do that.
Yeah, that hit us hard in a lot of ways, actually. But we had been homeowners at the time, and our property had lost about 85% of its value.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we went from $285 and ended up at selling for right around $69K.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit.
Yes,
but before we get to 2008, and because it sounds like that had a big impact on you guys, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about your financial backstories. Like growing up, what was money in your life growing up? What kind of upbringing did you have? What kind of familiarity, education? How'd you guys learn about money for the first time?
So I grew up in Peachtree City, which is a suburb of Atlanta. Nice middle class. Well, at my time, it was a nice middle class neighborhood.
I married a Fayette County girl, so I'm very familiar with that area.
Yeah. It was a great area to grow up in. Single family mom. Worked for Delta, like half the folks down there.
That's right.
We had a modest lifestyle, but we lived within a fairly narrow budget. But I never really felt in want of anything.
Did you understand money and how it worked, and were you part of that process when you were in the household, or when did you figure out money for yourself?
We learned to live within budgets. Like, here is your allowance. This is what you will have. This is all you will get, and you must make your decisions accordingly. You can ask, please, and thank you, but this is the budget that you were allotted. Do your best with it, and that's how I learned to budget and save for what I wanted. And it worked well, and that was how the whole family worked. We have a certain allocation, and you stay within it. A lot of us, like I said, were Delta kids, and we had certain things in common, like, hey, let's go to spring break in Honolulu because we can
fly for free.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so that didn't cost us money, but it certainly felt good.
Yeah.
You know?
I never did spring break in Honolulu. I never did do that.
Neither did I.
What about your background with money? What about your upbringing? What was your relationship with money like early on?
I grew up moving all over the place. We started out in Southern Illinois, went to Seattle, did some Georgia, all around in Georgia.
Military, or what was moving you guys around?
My dad's job was some of it. My mom's love of home remodeling was a lot of it. She was a flipper before that was a thing.
Got it.
That's awesome.
And so that was a lot of it. But my earliest memories, like, they've always been thrifty. My mom was, you don't shop on that first 3 racks in the store. You're going to the back of the store. You're finding the clearance racks. You're looking for the deals. So there was always a strong emphasis on value for what you paid. And then we landed for high school and middle school years in Marietta, Georgia, so North Atlanta suburb.
Yeah.
And when my dad was in his 40s, he got laid off. A similar story to your father, I believe. And that definitely shaped us. I was going into college at the time, and the big emphasis with my parents was like, you have to get something that's going to be a dependable job that you can count on, that there's a high demand. None of these rainbow unicorn dreams for you, like, get serious. Now, luckily, I was a pretty practical kid. It really wasn't a huge hardship. But it definitely steered me into pharmacy.
I'm going to say pharmacy, you like, because always going to need a pharmacist,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And it's
And
been
everywhere.
a great, yeah, and it's been a great career for that. And the other thing I really wanted is I knew when I had kids, I wanted to work part-time and not full, and pharmacy would allow me that. So that instilled a decent income. And so
I just love that. Beginning with the end in mind. But think about the life you want to have and then pursue a vocation that does that. I wish more young people would figure that out.
we were
today.
fortunate enough to do it in Georgia. Both of us got our degrees on the Hope Scholarship, which was a beautiful thing. So we graduated without any college debt.
Amazing.
So that was a big help.
Any regrets? Because we'll have younger people watch this too. It sounds like you were told, be practical with your college degree, get something, in your own words, not the unicorns and rainbows. Was there something you left behind to pursue the more conventional path of pharmacy?
Yeah, there was.
What was it?
When I was at UGA, I took an honors astronomy class, and that lit a fire. And then they offered to take me down to the SETI lab over the summer to be an intern, and I was a pharmacy intern instead. So
Now, can I pick on you a little bit? I took astronomy at Georgia.
Did you?
Because I thought it was going to teach me where the stars were and how to go outside at night. And I was like, this was going to impress the ladies. But here's the reality. This is why I'm picking on you. Astronomy at Georgia is actually a very math-based course. Now, fortunately, I was very math-minded, so I did good at it. But it was not the rainbows and unicorns that I thought I was signing up for.
A little bit.
It was. So even your rainbows and unicorn choice is very math-minded. So you just have a very analytical brain.
I
it
love
sounds
math.
like.
Yeah, and I will say it was somewhat a rainbow unicorn class because the woman who introduced the two of us, I met her in that class.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Oh, well, look, that's
so
what
it was
out.
it was
all
in the
worked out.
stars, if you will.
That's awesome.
All right, so fast forward now. You guys make it through childhood. You make it through University of Georgia. It sounds like greatest university.
Georgia Tech, but I'm
Oh, we're gonna need a moment. I'm just kidding. That's wonderful. We love Georgia Tech too. So you guys make it through college and you get married. Tell us a little bit about how did you navigate finances early on in your marriage? You said you've been married for 20 years, I think. What was money like early on? And then tell us the story of how we got from where you were then until where you are now.
Well, after graduation, I moved to Florida. And after about a year living down there, working as a civil engineer, I bought my townhome. And then we went to our mutual friend's wedding in Jamaica and hit it off. Megan was working in North Georgia at the time, and she had her own home. And so,
Wow.
Both of you homeowners, super early ages as single individuals.
right.
That's great.
And so that was a big tip off to each of us that the other was responsible and,
I remember,
reliable.
I remember one of the financial gurus back in the 90s, one of the things that she had said was that out of all the decisions you're going to make in your life, one of the most important financial decisions other than your career path is who you're going to marry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I will say that we met freshman year of college, and I wasn't interested because I didn't know where this boy was going.
And I was a tech.
And he was a tech, but a lot of people fail out of tech. Anyway, 6 years later.
I did not fail out of tech.
6 years later, when we met and became reacquainted, at that point, yes, he had a career, he had a home. I'm like, it put a slightly different light on things. So there was some tequila. Anyway, it was lovely.
Sure, yeah.
So.
That's great. Weddings go.
And I was quick to move into a house because it was one of the subdivisions our firm had designed. So I was kind of entry level into that. And so that was my big push. And the prices of everything were just going through the roof. So I wanted to get my foot in the door. And that's why I was pushed to get a townhome early on.
Yeah, and so then we started dating, and I ended up moving down to Florida to join him, found a job down there. He proposed in November, and we eloped 2 weeks later to get in on the tax year.
Financial mutants.
A little bit. So yeah, we had an actual wedding later, but we got the paperwork
Did the
done.
family know that y'all did this?
Eventually.
Mine knew in advance, but yeah, others found out a little later. But
I don't know, because now that I've gotten older and I have a daughter who's in her 20s, I don't know how I'd feel about that, even being a financial mutant. But I think you have to respect the game. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, and you have to market it to your audience. My grandmother didn't like that we were living together and weren't married. So
Well, no, I get that.
this was a
But I'm talking
solution
about
there,
the tax, getting married, and I get that there's other things with relatives, but I really do believe, at least I'm going to take you at your word, that you probably were thinking, hey, we could go ahead and get a tax deduction. That was on the pro column.
We were both pretty high income earners for our age, and getting married did help. So yeah.
So you get married, and you guys immediately start saving money, building for the future. You obviously you're in real estate. Did you start investing in real estate? Like, how did you go about building towards the future?
Well, we were both already saving into our retirement plans at work. We both started doing that, not maxing out. I don't remember the exact percentages, but we both graduated knowing that time was money and to get in early. And so then when we got married, we did quickly decide that it was an all-in-one pot family lifestyle, and that I would be stirring that pot. And so we didn't really start investing in real estate on purpose, but what happened is we were in the townhome. And as I actually sold my house in Georgia, we threw that money into the townhome to pay it down because, again, the common belief then was to pay off.
Get out of debt.
And I knew that we wanted to have kids and I was going to go part-time then. And so I thought, well, if we pay off the mortgage, then that gives the room in the budget for me to go to part-time.
And the mortgage rate wasn't all that great.
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah. And so then
What year was this?
we got married in 04.
04.
So yeah, and we bought, again, so we were in the townhome, but it wasn't an ideal place to start a family. And that 2 bedrooms were upstairs, the master was downstairs, and it just wasn't ideal. So we started looking for homes, thinking family, and again, he was developing things. And so we found a house in 2006.
Six, right?
Yeah.
That was the 285,
285. Yeah, it was a couple blocks from his work. Like, oh, this will be
It was
perfect.
like the 7th home built in the subdivision.
Sure. That sounds
Had a
like a
great
great
plan.
way to make money because you get in early and then they keep raising prices and you get
And
some built-in equity.
That's what was going on then too. People who didn't live through it don't realize how everybody's like, this will never. They're not making more land.
Not making more land.
So-
That was the
Can
saying.
only
That
go
was-
up.
Everybody's
sure.
retiring to Florida.
And
so there's
everybody's
always a
coming to
constant
Florida. Yeah,
stream.
there's
Right.
going to be people. So we thought, well, we'll buy this and we'll put our townhome on the market. And we did that. And then we got a contract. And about then, the bubble started to not burst, but things were slowing down. And
Okay.
then people backed out of their deal on the townhome. And then we had
wow.
to, so then we were sitting with 2 houses. And again, luckily we were,
The townhome was paid off. It was paid for.
it
at
wasn't
that-
completely paid off. We had
a small mortgage on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were paying the 2. Again, it was not hurting us terribly because we had a decent income and we didn't have kids yet. But we finally did sell it, but not quite as much as we thought we were going to get. And then we had our daughter in 2008, and then things just really went south with the house.
Well, and that's where we kind of we paused there and then we moved on to catch the rest of your life. But I do want to hear, because when I was reading through the notes in preparation for today, I kept noticing a little bit of a cloud over your brilliant story. We're going to get into your accounts and your numbers here in a minute, and y'all have done very well. But sometimes when I was looking at your questions and concerns, like I said, it was more of the Eeyore side of things that had a little downer on it. What and that's why I wanted to lean into this house purchase, or maybe I should talk about the house disposal. Because give us the rest of the story. What happened? You bought it for $285. You had trouble with the townhome, but it sounds like you eventually did get that sold.
We sold it.
What happened to this house in Florida?
We paid it off because, again, we were still thinking that we were going to be there long term.
Okay, you paid it off by 2008?
Yeah, I believe
Okay,
so.
so that was quick.
Wow.
Wow. Y'all threw the kitchen sink at it.
Well, we
Yes.
were both working full time.
Right.
And we threw everything. Because I took the proceeds from my sale in Georgia, I'd put that to the townhome. When the townhome sold, we rolled that into this house, and then we just hit it hard. We were still contributing to retirement, but not maybe maxing out. But it was our number one goal was to get
So
that
let's
paid
repeat
off.
that. You paid off a $285,000 house within 2 years of ownership. That's pretty amazing,
amazing.
from
That's
a
a
cash
unique
flow
thing.
perspective alone. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
lot of money.
I graduated pharmacy in 03, so that was about 5
I
years.
know you
of
were rolling in other assets from
Right.
proceeds from previous houses, but still, that's substantial, multiple 6 figures
And we were
for a couple in their
celebrating when we got
20s.
out of
Yeah,
it. We
for
were
sure.
like, we thought that was great and amazing. And we paid it off a little bit before the market burst.
And at the
so-
time, when you look at the returns on real estate in Florida at that time, the returns were just amazing. And so that felt like the best investment you could make at the time. So we were in on it and excited.
So how did this go negative though? What actually led to this creating this Eeyore cloud that y'all have over your financial life?
Well, like I said, I was pretty much in the thick of it as a civil engineer doing real estate development. And instead of everybody calling me 5 times a day, the phone went quiet. And then I had to start calling and asking about, where do you want to go with this project, this town of homes you want to build, what's going on with it, and that fewer returns. Then we had to call about collections a little more, and nobody came in the door, and projects just started either dying, closing up, and the
So your
phones went
working
silent.
capital, meaning your employment, was now in jeopardy.
Oh, absolutely.
And because of this, and now, but this also had an impact on your personal finances because what happened to the house?
Well, like I said, I think we were the 8th home to be constructed in a subdivision around 50, and
when the market
nothing else
blew
was
up,
built.
the builder went bankrupt, and the neighborhood never got completed. There's still lots there today.
Wow.
Yeah, they're finally starting to get, but there's still places there that haven't been developed. The other thing was, like, he was getting nice bonuses every year from this firm, and then all of a sudden he came home one day, and I still remember, he's like, they're starting to talk about maybe asking everybody to take a 20% pay cut so we can keep everyone on payroll, but and so that might be coming. And that's when we were like, ooh, again, this is all right as we're thinking about starting our family and
and this
getting
is a
things going. And
situation we didn't think would ever happen.
completely blindsided.
Yeah.
Maybe little markets here and there have a fall in real estate value, a little bit here and there, but an utter collapse was just unthinkable.
And I think the fact that we did understand this at the time, value of money, it made it, we knew we were young. We knew we were in our years that we were supposed to be building, not having tons of our equity just vanish all but overnight. And so it still stings. I mean, it shapes everything that we still do.
Because you sold the house for what?
We sold it for, well, we had a deal to sell it for 85, and the appraisal came back, I believe, at 70 or something. It was right in there.
And while the house was paid off, so it wasn't an expense thing. Why were we selling the house?
It was more because of his career prospects
Okay.
than anything.
Had to get somewhere else.
Because a
to
lot
get
of other
different job.
firms were actually closing up their shops.
And he hadn't been laid off or anything yet, but we were worried.
Got it.
And again, at that point, we had our daughter. We had family was all in Georgia, so we had an opportunity to go back to Georgia. And we thought, you know what, that just seems like a safer bet for us.
So the house, now you bought it for $285. What was the most it was ever worth? If you
Probably
estimate?
$285,
So
probably.
you pretty much got it at the top.
I think we all but did, yeah.
But then you sold it for $75?
Yes, right in there. Yeah.
Okay. So I can see how that $210,000 kind of haunts you, plus the career decisions you had to make.
It's what ended up ultimately leading him to go to the railroad too. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just it shaped us.
The Great Recession was
A kick in the teeth.
hard.
And I'm gonna come back to the emotional impacts of that, because I'm hoping by the end of the time y'all leave today, I can give you some guidance of somebody who not only we lived it. By the way, we had that conversation because I hired Bo and I came on the scene in 2008, and I'll never forget that year was horrible in itself, and because markets were down 40-50%.
Oh yeah, our investments.
I
have
had
lost
his
as well.
salary, so everything was off. And I remember I came in, I had this exact same conversation with Bo. I was like, hey, you're not going to lose your job. I'll just go ahead and put your mind at ease. You're awesome. I love you. But I can't take any more of this myself. So we might get to a point that I have to cut your pay. You remember
Oh,
that
yeah, I remember
conversation?
the conversation,
And I
yeah.
used to go home and look out my back window and go, I'm sure I could plant corn right there, and I could probably feed my family. So I don't know if any of you are younger and you weren't around during that time. It was unique, and everybody back then the 2008 to 2011, really the collapse of real estate. Everybody used to say, go buy as big a house as you can afford because they don't make more real estate. So this is going to be the best thing. And then we quickly see trees don't grow to heaven. And it was an accounting and reckoning that came in.
So that's the backstory. You kind of walked us through let's talk about where you guys are today, right? Because
It's a much better story.
obviously
Yeah.
that was a fairly traumatic thing for you guys to go through early on in your marriage, early on in your family. But when we fast forward to today, things look a little bit different. You guys were kind enough to share with us some of your account statements. We want to kind of just go through your net worth statement, sort of state of where you are right now. And you can see that right now, when we look at your total net worth, you have a net worth a little over $2.1 million, of which about $1.8 million of that is liquid invested assets. So you went from 2008, what is going to happen to us, to now multi-millionaires.
That's incredible.
So we ought to pause there for a moment and say that is amazing. So here you all guys are in your mid 40s with a 2 million plus net worth. What are your financial goals? Like, what are the things that you want to work to from this point? Because you've obviously had that experience. Here's where you are now. Now, where are you guys going to?
Well, because of that experience, I think our number one goal has always been security.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just want to be sure that no matter what the world throws at us, that we're still rocking and rolling and doing all right, and that we're never a burden to our children, and that if our parents need help, we're there. Like, we just want to be able to support people who've supported us.
With a focus on stability.
Stability,
that's stability.
But also, we've gotten to a point where we've worked really hard, and I went through thinking all of the savings that we did to get those numbers, that there'd be a time we could maybe ease up the gas just a little bit. And so I'm also at a point where I'd like to see that happen. And so I'm trying to decide, can we ease up the gas without jeopardizing that security?
And how do you guys define security? Like, what does security from a financial standpoint, what does that mean to you guys? Is it a number? Is it all CDs? Like, what does security mean to you?
The ability to basically take a hit financially.
Okay.
That real estate issue that we had always haunts us every now and then, but it doesn't end in retirement. I mean, we looked still at Florida and see the news, and that homeowners associations dues are going through the roof. Hurricane insurance going through the roof.
Yeah, we're in South Georgia now, and we had a hurricane. Who expected that in South Georgia? We
Right.
did not. We thought we
the
left
mountains
that.
of North Carolina are getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, or out in Los Angeles, huge fires. Though you have a steady stream plan for retirement, which is great, but then in retirement, bad things can still happen.
That's right.
And I don't want something bad to happen to the point where we have to go back to work after we're retired. So just enough of a buffer while we're retired to, like I said, take a hit.
We've always been able to weather the storms because we've had income still coming in. And so when I start thinking about, man, I'd love to, kick back and go travel and enjoy what we've saved, when I think about a big hit coming and us not having that regular income to fall back on, or like, hey, I'll go pick up an extra job. I mean, I guess I could do that in retirement, but I don't.
But the desire is not to. The desire is when you step away to be able to stay stepped away.
Right.
Yeah, focus on the kids, hopefully some grandkids. And I'd love to. He traveled a lot due to his Delta upbringing. I have not. I would love to see more of the world. And so,
And when we were in our early 20s, we could always lean on our parents if we had to. That was the last resort. We could lean on our parents. But now that we're at a certain age, it's more like the parents need to lean on us.
It's on
just
you
in
guys
case.
yeah,
now,
I mean,
right?
The tables have turned.
they're not
there.
wealthy, but they've always been supportive, and
Sure.
there was always an open door if we really had to have it. And so, and we'd like to be able to give them that security that they provided us when we were younger.
We're more the safety net now instead of the parents.
Yeah.
So security potentially easing up. Were there any other goals? The big ones?
Those are probably the biggest. I mean, obviously, we want to get the kids through college and make sure that we haven't, that we're setting them up for the strong start that we had. Again, we were really beneficial that we graduated without any college debt. The money that we had saved and through working through college, we were able to use for those down payments on our first homes that we got early. And that helped us, again, weather that storm that we hit. So I want to make sure that the kids are set up for that too, without enabling them to just kick back and think, well,
Do
mom and
anything
dad
they
are
want,
doing
but
great.
not do nothing, right?
Yeah.
Who Warren Buffett is.
Yeah, we're not that kind of wealthy. We're just,
I love it.
And when do you think y'all want to leave the workforce? What's the goals here?
so
You told
funny.
us you're in your mid-40s.
Yeah, I originally thought when I was 50, that was based on the job that I used to have. But again, a couple of years ago, we moved, and I have a job now that is a lot less stressful, that I really enjoy. I feel like I'm serving the community well. And I could see doing it for a long time. I mean, easily into my 60s.
Oh, wow.
But I would probably like to retire around 60 just so that we could start traveling more while we're still young. And
Love it.
And I enjoy my job too. Very fortunate after a lot of tough jobs to finally get to one that I like. And I don't know, mid 60s. It depends on where
Early
insurance and Medicaid and all that lies.
Early
60s.
60s.
So tell us, do you have an idea when you get to retirement, like when you want to live that lifestyle, like how much is that going to cost? Like if today you were in your mid 60s, how much would it cost you to live the life you want to live on your terms?
I was guesstimating around $8,000 a month.
Okay,
I think.
great. $8,000
because that gives a travel budget that. And so we're thrifty, so I could probably make it on a lot less, but I'm hoping that.
Well, financial
in retirement,
independence isn't always about making it on a lot less. It's about living the life you want to live.
and that's
right?
the difference. Yeah.
So let's talk about your accounts and what you guys have been doing to build towards this goal, and let's kind of see is it realistic? Is what you've laid out possible? So
And also the ease up. Can we ease
yeah,
up?
is that something you can do? So obviously, when we look at your accounts, Megan, you have rollover IRA, pre-tax money. You have a large Roth IRA.
I was
with
excited about that.
$500,000.
How'd you get that?
Okay,
Is that
there's-
a one-time did you
Yeah.
buy NVIDIA or Tesla,
the
or is
story
this
of
just
that is
discipline?
that it was mostly discipline. It was because when, again, we had been saving for that house and we paid the house off. After that, I started just saving the money in a cash savings account, basically, knowing that I was going to want to cut back and have kids.
Yeah.
We'd have a little bit of a cash buffer. Well, then we left the job, and then he decided he wanted to change careers and went back to school for a year. During that year, we had no income. So we took that year to do a big rollover, and we rolled a lot into a Roth.
Oh,
and I
big
used
old
the
great. Did a
conversion. I
conversion.
love
did a
it.
conversion,
That's great.
used the cash that we had saved when we were living off of it, but we also used that to pay the taxes. So we were able to roll the whole thing over and pay the taxes out of something that was saved on the side.
Even a financial mutant at hard times. I mean, your income is down, your jobs have
You're like,
changed.
here's an opportunity.
There had to be some silver lining to that cloud.
Well, you
so.
know that in the Millionaire Next Door, one of the things that Dr. Stanley says is one of the traits of them is they recognize market opportunities. And even though you were in this spot, you found the silver lining. In Millionaire Mission, you talk about silver linings, and you found that. That's huge. And because of you recognizing that, even that downtime, here you sit now with $500,000.
Well, and as a
in Roth
couple,
assets.
y'all have close to $750,000 of Roth money.
Yeah.
That's going to help out with the
That's
retirement
what we're
plan.
hoping. Yeah, we've been big fans of Roth for a long time.
There's a
so-
silver lining, very
Yeah.
thin.
It is
silver
very
lining.
thin.
we,
It's
don't,
there.
we don't like to choose favorite children on our different
Right.
account structures, but definitely the Roth would be
Yeah,
at the top
no,
of the list.
And so when we see your retirement account, you have a 401k, your current 401k that looks like it maybe just started out. And then you have an old 403b with about $270,000. Any reason why you've left that in the 403b structure as opposed to rolling it into your new 401k or IRA rollover?
The paperwork headache. I called them. I looked into it. They sent me this form. They said that he would have to notarize it because as my spouse, they had to make sure that he was aware I was moving the money. And then they sent me 18 pages of
Right.
teeny tiny print. And I'm like, it's fine. I just left it. That's the main reason. So, and the investments in there have been doing, I think, okay. And I don't know. I need to take care of that. And that's
So that's one thing. It's not something a must do, but you could obviously the more consolidated you can have your picture, especially if it's inside the same tax bucket, it's a little bit easier just to manage and navigate through time. And then we have now, Patrick, moving on to your accounts. You have two HSAs, HSA number 1, HSA number 2. Walk us through why we have two separate HSAs.
Do you know that? Do you want?
I think you're going to have to help me out on that.
All right. Again, I stir that money pot. That's because the way he had one job that allowed for an HSA, and they separated it. There's $1,000 or so that they won't invest. They said they have to keep that
Have to keep that in cash.
In cash,
Sure.
and then the other part is the invested part.
Got
and
it.
so there are two parts of that. And then we were only eligible for that HSA for about 3 months before there was another career change, and so. It was very sad because I was looking forward to that HSA the whole time, for years, and we finally got a job that had one, and then now we're back.
Was that
to
2023?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Because I did have a chance to review y'all's tax return, and I was excited when I saw the page in there for the health savings account, and I saw there was an employer contribution of $333, but it didn't give you guys credit for any contribution.
Okay, the reason we didn't, and I didn't think we could, is because we had an FSA that year, a flex spending account. And so everything I was reading said it was with the prior job. So the first job we had that year had the flex spending account, which we had contributed
Okay.
to. So when we went and started the HSA, the company contributed without us even
So
asking.
there was no contributions into the health savings account
Not
because
that year
of the
because
conflict.
you already participated
because
in
we
FSA
already
in that year.
and so I didn't think
Gosh,
we could.
I mean, that's
I
what
tried.
He wanted you to have
I was
HSA
so
also.
excited because as a
wanted-
financial mutant, I was like, and I knew it was already going to be prorated because I knew that y'all weren't going to be able to take the full HSA deduction. But
And
I was trying to get you something.
I was too, Brian. I really was. I wanted it so badly. And then what's really sad is that his job now, it looks like we would have be able to contribute to an HSA because it's a high deductible plan, but our actual family max is over the limit. Like
So it doesn't qualify.
So it doesn't
for
qualify.
HSA contributions.
And so we were so close again. I'm calling HR. I'm like, hey, this looks like a high deductible plan. Can we have an HSA?
Yeah.
And she's like, we don't do an HSA. I'm like, that's fine. I'll do one on my own. She's like, no, it doesn't qualify. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, that is,
So
by the way,
close.
when you structure health insurance, it is something we always make sure is that are these HSA eligible? Because there's so many plans that get so close, but they're one or two ticks off on one of the coverages or the deductibles.
Yeah.
So if you work for a company, I would advocate because there's nothing
his company,
because
but
that's,
yeah, well.
that's something I would advocate and ask them, hey, why are we doing this? Why not choose the option that makes this HSA eligible?
So then, Patrick, obviously you have a retirement asset. You have a rollover IRA pre-tax that has about $315,000. You have a Roth with almost $250,000 in it. And then you have a 457, which is great, super unique retirement account that you're able to access earlier than traditional 401ks. And then you guys have some brokerage assets held inside a revocable trust of about $260,000. Where'd that money come from? Are you guys in step 7 of the FU and saving after tax?
Pretty much, yeah. We're
Okay.
at step 7 because we skipped ahead and did that paying off the low interest. But we're back. We're back where we're supposed to be. And so we've been saving into that because, again, for a while, when we were in our prior jobs, we both thought retirement would be sooner because we were going to burn out earlier.
Sure.
And so we thought we needed to save into the brokerage account to have that as a bridge.
And then it sounds like you also there's some pensions there in the background.
That
for
just
you guys.
started with me. Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about
Railroad
what
too,
that
can you
looks
just-
like.
Oh yeah. As part of the railroad, I paid into railroad retirement and was vested in there, which is railroad retirement is an alternative to Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason for me going to the railroad in the first place was railroad retirement. It's
Security.
I
We
love
were
it,
looking
yeah.
for security, and we thought, well, we don't know if Social Security is going to be there, but maybe railroad retirement will still be
Right,
around.
sure.
And so that
So it's either railroad retirement or Social Security, and railroad retirement paid more, and it's solvent. So that was a big bonus for me.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I'm invested in it. But now that I'm back, I'm with a municipal employer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back to Social Security, but I now have a pension, and after 10 years, I'll be vested in that. And so, man, it feels like we've hit every retirement option.
Yeah, we all
the whole
You've done
scope
every
of it.
possible
Every-
account.
Every
there
letter
is.
combination,
Yeah.
every
Awesome.
number account.
Yeah, we'd love to see that simplified a little bit. So the idea of rolling
Sure.
things over definitely is.
And so those pensions are going to be about $2,100 a month in benefit. So if we're again, we're just kind of doing some like mental accounting here. You're going to have $8,000 burn rate. We're going to have some Social Security coming in for both of you guys. Going to have $2,000 in pensions coming in monthly. You're already in terms of security, we're starting to kind of stack it up, right? Like it's
Trying.
feeling pretty good. Primary home worth $330,000. You've done great saving for the kids. You have two 529s, one with about 100,000, one with about 124,000.
Yeah,
in there.
those grew a little faster than I expected to. We started that again the day the children were born. They each got their first lump sum put in, and yeah, they've really performed. And then we moved back to Georgia, where again we went through school on the Hope Scholarship, and we're hoping that the children will as well. And so now I'm actually a little concerned I might have
overfunded.
Well,
those a
if
little
you've
bit.
overfunded, this is the best time to be alive to overfund a 529 because they keep giving more and more opportunities on what you can do with those assets even after college. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that as well. So that's good.
So obviously, here's where we are, sort of state of the union, net worth right now, presently today. Well, let's talk about how we're growing that through time, because clearly you could not get to this place unless you guys were fantastic savers. And we asked you, hey, tell us a little about what you're doing from a savings standpoint. You kind of walked us through your savings plan, right? And it sounds like you're both maxing out Roth IRAs. It's $7,000 each, $14,000. $457 for you, Patrick. We're maxing that out at about $23,500, which is 30% contribution rate, which is amazing. And then Megan, your 401k, we're doing about 5%. Walk us through that. What's the thought
Yeah,
there?
my company doesn't guarantee matching because I'm part-time. It depends on the number of hours I get in for the year.
Got it.
They will match up to 5%, but only if I get over a certain number. So I'm trying to do that 5% just
You got
in
a
case.
hedge in there
Sure.
just in case.
So I hope I get, but because match isn't guaranteed, we've been putting more into his retirement where there is a guaranteed match.
Love it.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say the obvious. It shows right here that y'all are saving approximately 29% of your gross income.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah, that probably is true.
Yeah, but this doesn't even tell the whole story because I wanted to wait until we got to this page. That after-tax account that's close to $250,000, you're like, yeah, we're in step 7. We're putting So is there additional savings every month that's going into that account too?
Not regularly.
Okay.
When we sold our house in New York a couple of years ago, we took some of the proceeds of that and put that in there because the house we bought in Georgia was less expensive. So when we have little windfalls, I tuck that in there. But again, now that we're not planning on necessarily retiring that early, it didn't seem quite as
You
important.
don't see a lot of money going into that account then?
Not a lot.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's and by the way,
Unless
this
we
is,
need to. That's why we're here.
Sure.
So.
because we talk about 25% is really the number, and since you already have you're close to multiple seven figures. You're already kind of
The
over.
reason
You're doing a
we're
good
doing
job.
that, the whole time he was at the railroad, he had no 401k or any other retirement. It was just the railroad, and so I constantly felt like maybe we were undersaving those years because we were getting about 19%. I was maxing my
So you're
retirement
trying to
account.
catch up for lost time.
Right.
Okay.
But then I'm like, maybe I don't need to catch up for lost
Well,
time.
That is a good question.
I love it. Do I need to catch up? I love that.
529s, we were living in upstate New York at the time, so it really had good tax advantages, New York being a high tax state. And also at the time, if they wanted to stay close to home in New York, those schools are much more expensive. So we had a very rigid savings plan in that 529.
And
but
then our
now we
plans
moved down-
changed.
Now in here, we still have a lot of savings. It's just instead of 529s, where it's not as needed anymore, we put it more into
That's
our
going
plan.
towards retirement
Sure.
into your budget.
Sure.
I love it. So obviously, well, tell me this. Would it be accurate for us to say this is probably a conservative estimation? Like there's probably not going to be a year you save less than this. This would probably be the lower end of what your true savings would be in any given year.
This
I don't see any changes.
Yeah, this would be our plan going forward.
This
If-
is the plan.
If anything, I guess it would go up because when we get to 50, we have those catch-up
Catch up
Roths.
contributions, right? So, so the answer is yes. This is conservative. This is probably the baseline, right? This is
Probably.
probably the baseline.
Yeah.
Well, when we look at your account structure, we think about the three buckets. You know, we talk about how we build moving towards financial independence. You guys have done a great job building up your three buckets. You can see that of all of your assets, you've got about 44% in tax deferred. Because of those decisions you made when you had the opportunity, you have about 41% in your tax-free bucket and you have 15% in your after-tax. The beautiful thing is that if you can build those three buckets, when you get to retirement, you decide that you're ready to start living off these assets, you get to pick and choose what you pay in taxes. Maybe I pull some out of my 457, or maybe I pull some out of my IRA rollover, and then I pull out of my Roth, or I pull out of the after-tax account. You get to be in control of your financial situation. One of the things you guys have said is my goal is security and certainty and stability. Well, one of the things that's uncertain is what does the tax future for Americans look like? You guys are in a great position that with this account structure, even if taxes go up or down, you're able to optimize based on whatever the tax policy is in the years that you retired. So again, like you're moving towards stability, you're moving towards security, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, y'all are on the way to being tax-free millionaires. I mean, think about that. You will hit Roth at $1 million.
But I don't know how I'm ever going to spend any of those tax-free dollars
But that's
because
a
they are my favorites.
But you know what? They're actually great from an estate and legacy building
right.
way
Yeah.
as well. That's why it's the dirty little secret is that is your favorite account, and then it's the least account you want to get rid of because it does have such legacy benefits as well.
All right, so obviously we know where you are today, and we know what your savings strategy looks like. And so you said that our goal, we like our jobs. We're not trying to get out of the workforce super soon. Our goal is to retire around mid-60s, early 60s. We want to retire around the early 60s. Okay, so what does that mean? What's your number? Have you done the exercise working through what our number is?
I have. I use this great course that I found online.
I love it.
Little nerdy spreadsheet.
A little nerdy spreadsheet. I have a couple of nerdy spreadsheets actually, but the thing is that I can play with the numbers and make it say anything I want it to say.
Sure.
If I tweak the what returns we're going to get, or what kind of inflation we're going to see, or again, can we live on 3,000 or 5,000, or do we need 10? I spent a lot of time on that spreadsheet, but
Yeah.
it didn't necessarily give me quite the certainty and clarity I was hoping for because
You just said something and it hit me, and I'm trying to figure out the dynamic between the two of you because I feel a little. It's not a conflict, but it's just that it's incongruent. You said it was actually you, Megan, that said that you want to potentially know if you could ease up because you want to travel more, do more. But I can't help but notice, I feel like you're also the gas pedal to increasing savings, or are you kind of in conflict with yourself, or is this
Oh, yeah.
something? But do you see? I'm just trying to figure out what your real goal is because it sounds like you're trying to get more. But and even the spreadsheet that tells you, hey, I'm doing great. you're trying to find excuses. Yeah, but I can get it to say anything.
I think part of that is that
the cloud, at least for me, the cloud of 2008 is always going to be there. We were doing the right thing. We were doing what we were told. We were doing really well, and then you lose 75% of the value of your home. So even when you're doing the right thing, there's still that cloud of, is something weird going to change in the future?
Well,
that throws all of your assumptions out the door.
And the other thing for me is that I do kind of head our family finances. That's the role that I take. And so I take a lot of responsibility in that, he makes the money, he puts it in the account, and we have a great life that we built with it. But if that goes south, I'm going to take a lot of responsibility for that because I have been planning and telling him, hey, knock that savings up to this, and that's kind of, I've been leading that charge. So
I think this is it because we're about to give you some results. But I think before we do that, we need to clear the air on some of the mindset issues.
Sure.
Because us humans, we have this tendency where we like to anchor towards especially negative situations, and y'all had it. I mean, and it makes complete sense. You're not only was your financial capital crushed, but you also had a lot of career stress. And I know, I mean, I dealt with that some, and I've told you about my conversation is that can just echo throughout your head and create all kind of weird dynamics for the future, your outlook. So let's peel back the layers and talk about that period of time a little bit, because I want to see if I can shift your mindset. You guys lost around $200,000 on that house transaction. Now I can't fix the career stuff. It sounds like you've done that, Patrick. You've moved, you've changed but I want to try to reshape how your mindset works towards that $200,000 loss, is because you're remembering that loss as this catastrophic thing. But if I challenged you and I said, hey, let's first talk about your behavior. Even if, because I felt like there was regret that you paid it off. Now, look, I wouldn't have had you pay it off as fast as you did. But I do want to ask you the question of, because this is a philosophical thing. I had a lot of neighbors in my neighborhood that even took out home equity lines and then walked away from the house. You guys personally as a couple, even if you had not paid off this house, were you going to walk from this house, or you would have paid it off, wouldn't you?
We would have, because the idea of walking away would have been a bigger failure.
Yeah.
And so
I couldn't have told my parents. Yeah,
I
just walked away.
Yeah. There would have been, I completely, and I resemble you, and that's why I knew the first bridge I want to get you past is that you were never morally going to walk away from that debt anyway. So all you did was you prepaid the negative equity anyway. We would have ended up in the exact same place. So I think you can free yourself from, if you have any regrets about prepaying, yes, there were some opportunity costs potentially, but I think you would have still paid it off. You would never have walked away from the debt.
There was one other thing that happened is that when we sold the house, we actually sold it to a coworker of mine, and that helped a little bit with the sting. Like I knew she was getting a good home and a good deal, and she was not in a she was a single mother, not in a position otherwise. If the market hadn't crashed, she would not have been buying a house at the time. And so at least, even though we had to sell, we were able to sell it to somebody who I knew needed it. And so that helped a little too.
So go ahead.
And when we were living in New York, we'd look at Zillow and Realtor.com every once in a while to see, is it back to what we paid for it?
It took over a decade for it to recover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that was the other thing. I was like, well, should we have held on to it and tried to rent it? And at the time, we weren't in that mindset either, but we considered all of those things.
Sure.
And then again, no, it would have taken over a decade for it to regain its
stayed
value.
down
And
a long time.
And that would have been an anchor, an even heavier anchor, I think, around us had we kept it.
So here's the other thing that I want to hopefully change y'all's perspective on. Is that, and I do this with clients I've been fortunate that I've been managing money since the 90s, and I have clients that we've had here at the firm since 2002, and I try to remind them that 2008 crisis where portfolios lost 25% and you struggled with it is. I want you to look. I always say, look at the chart now of where 2008, how it in relative form to your total portfolio, it's a blip. And I would challenge you guys, because Megan and I were talking about, and then I brought Bo in on the fold, is that last year we estimated, it was hard because y'all have so many accounts in different places. Last year in 2024, it was a pretty good year for the investment marketplace. Y'all made from our estimation, probably $250,000. Going,
what I had too.
She's like, oh, let me see.
You're going to know better than us, but I was trying to estimate it.
Yeah, I might know what we made.
So going back to analytical mindsets from astronomy.
I love it, by the way. You hit the jackpot, by the way, because she financial mutant, and y'all are balancing and communicating.
The last 2 years are both around 200,000 each year.
So think about this. This $200,000 loss has just got this hangover effect. It's this cloud that's hanging over you. But yet now you guys are running a soon to be multiple 7-figure portfolio, and it is so successful that for the last 2 years, it basically overwhelms the loss of that 1 year. You guys are doing incredible things, and that's why a lot of people think when you hire a financial planner that we are, and I heard you, I couldn't help but chuckle because you said that you used to listen to a female commentator back in the 90s.
You probably can't
I know who it is. I can
yeah.
kind of guess who it is. And her big thing was she said no to everything.
Yes.
And I think that gave, a lot of people think when you hire a financial planner, we are the break to all life choices. We're going to say no, save more.
She's still in the back of my head saying it all the time.
I will tell you as a financial planner, and Bo can echo this, our biggest thing, especially with a couple like you, is I'm going to try to unleash you in retirement to where you don't feel this doubt or concern, because you're way too far from it now, because you guys are 15 years from where your actual retirement is. But once you're a real retiree, or even within 5 years of landing this airplane, I'm going to start doing Monte Carlo simulations. So you see this in thousands of simulations run on your annual portfolio, and to give you the peace of mind. And you're going to see, holy cow, like 86% of the time, I'm going to be okay. You guys might be 95% of the time, you're going to be okay, just to give you that peace of mind. And then I'm going to say, okay, now, what are we doing? Are we making more memories? Are we spending more money? Because you guys are way too hard on yourself. I love what you're doing. And I love that Bo's about to unleash on you what is... what we think your future will potentially could look like. And even better, even if you pulled back a little bit on the savings, you have so many opportunities here, but you got to forgive yourself, because y'all done some incredible things. And I don't want that one period of time to define, that one loss to define all your wins.
Yeah, it's so hard, because we were young. It was a very formative experience, and again, we thought we had graduated from college, we had these great jobs, we knew what we were doing, and then life just slapped us down, and
it was not a gradual transition there either.
It wasn't, and so we've been fighting, and that's to get over that. So we're hoping that we've done enough, but it's.
And it sounds
There's
like
always that little voice.
The thing you're concerned about, I mean, obviously you had the traumatic experience that happened, but you're like, what about the unknown unknowns? I mean, you just mentioned all the crazy things going on in the country right now, today, over the past year. What if one of those things happens to us? How can we have confidence?
No, they didn't say what if one of those things. Their question was, what if all these things happen to us all at once? Because that's the part I found myself. I was trying to look in my notes. I don't have what you actually wrote us, because I can't pull it up on this pad. But y'all threw out, I mean, it was hurricanes, HOA fees are going up, insurance is going. I mean, it was like everything and anything all at once, and I was like, wowzer! I mean, this is really throwing the kitchen sink in a different way.
But I want to put your mind at ease. You're not unique in that mindset. A lot of financial mutants, especially financial mutants who have come through some sort of traumatic experience, bring that baggage along with them. And no matter, we can tell you all the time, oh, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. But it doesn't make that feeling go away. So what we try to do is we try to remove emotion from the equation. And how can we be pragmatic and practical and logical, arriving at a really good level of confidence with the plan that we have? And the way that we do that is through like these really conservative assumptions. And we say, hey, if we build out a plan that works and everything that we do in this plan is so conservative that it's going to be hard for it not to turn out better than it is, then we can begin to have some some breathing room. Because if I would have asked you in 2009, right after this took place, hey guys, would you believe that in the year 2025, we'll be sitting here together and you guys are going to be multimillionaires? Like, would you have been able to say, so things turned out better even than you thought they would have. And I think what will likely happen, and this is the case for most financial mutants, if you are conservative in your assumptions, that's what happens. And so we decided we want to put together a plan to show, okay, what is your portfolio path? That's what we call it. What does it look like? If we just continue saving the way that you are, so right now today, you guys have $1.8 million. We just uncovered that you're saving about 30% of your income. We said, hey, what if we assume no pay raises, no increases, no bonuses, and we just save at that level for the remainder of your working career? And then we said, hey, what if your portfolio only returns 6% annualized? Now, do you know what you have been annualizing over the past?
I believe around 8.
Around 8. That's we actually looked,
You really do know all your numbers. I love it.
I don't know if
It's
you know,
so
we
good.
actually synthesized your current portfolio. Now,
I started this
obviously-
in 2006, by the way. It's been going the entire marriage. But
I love it. Well, your portfolio's obviously changed through time, but your portfolio snapshot today, if we just back tested over the last 15 years, you've annualized a little over 9% per year with the current portfolio. But obviously, as you know, as you age, your risk tolerance changes and that sort of thing. But we said, let's go really, really conservative and say, what if we just had a 6% rate of return? And we think 6% is incredibly conservative. Well, just with that behavior, right now today, you start at 1.8. We estimate that just doing what you're currently doing, by the time that you get to age 60, your portfolio will be worth almost $5 million. Now,
that's a nice number.
I already know you're going to say it because I know you're a financial media. But Bo,
Inflation.
$5 million in the future is not going to be the same today, and you would be accurate in that. So if we just assume a 3% inflation rate, which aligns with historical rates of inflation, and we say, okay, what could a $5 million portfolio really generate for us in today's dollars? You can see that we could count on an annual cash flow from that portfolio of about $130,000 a year.
Meaning we brought
dollars.
it back to today's
Is that-
dollars.
today's
Is that
dollars.
pre-tax or is that?
That would be total income. So you have to factor
Okay.
in taxes, right? So that would be before you take taxes out. But remember, you're building your 3 tax bucket. So it's not like that's
Yeah.
$130,000
Half your money
income.
is close to
It's
tax-free,
tax-free.
so
You can
it's
pull
not going to
all
be a
that out of a
problem.
Roth and pay 0 taxes, right? That's kind of the thing that you get to do. So $130,000 per year. And by the way, this assumes a 4% withdrawal rate. So the idea behind that would be you start retirement with $5 million and you pull out the equivalent of $130,000 in today's dollars every year. And when you guys leave this earth at the end of your plan, you leave behind $5 million. Like this doesn't assume getting into the principal, getting into the interest.
Oh, wow.
You guys said, hey, we need about $8,000, and I'm not great at public math, but I think it's like $96,000. We need to spend $96,000, and we just showed you the portfolio will generate about $130,000, not including pensions, not including Social Security.
Feeling a little more secure.
Okay, so let's pause.
That's why when I was
Right.
looking at y'all's situation, I was like, and by the way, that's 60. Even if we back this up to 55, it was still exceeding, not taking into account Social Security and pensions and the other things. I mean, you guys might be closer. No, I'm not saying what I like about financial freedom is you don't have to actually retire. If you love what you're doing and you get purpose out of your work and how you spend your time. But I do think 50 might be closer to the actual flexibility point.
And that's actually what security really does mean to me,
Yeah.
is the security to know that if my
That
job
is the
did
definition.
disappear, I would still be okay.
You own your time. You're choosing to work, not because you have to work. That is definitely
Yeah.
financial independence.
And so if you had a portfolio that could generate $130,000 plus, in addition to pensions, in addition to Social Security, you would argue that would be at financial independence. Like at that level of income,
Yeah,
you
I
guys
would
could.
I
feel-
agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So then the question becomes, okay, well, can we ease up? What if we were to
Yes,
back it
Bo,
down?
that is the question.
So we said, hey, what if they just got really excited and they said, you know what, all we're going to do is we're just going to max out our Roth IRAs. We're not going to do any more. We're just going to do 7,000, and we're going to assume that the government doesn't even increase the limits. It's just going to be 7,000 for the remainder of our working career, and we're not even going to worry about catch-ups. We're just going to do 7,000 a year until we stop working.
Now, I will tell you, the financial mutant in me is like, please get the free money, though.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a reason it's step number 2 in our financial order of
You
operation.
don't have to worry.
But we
Don't
have
lose
to at
sleep
least
over that.
create the theory to have the conversation.
Because
sure.
you have built out the portfolio so well, and because it's able to compound upon itself, if all you guys did was have a 10% savings rate, which is just essentially maxing out your Roth IRAs, you would still be on track by age 60 to have almost $4.4 million. And again, if we're thinking about like the income that would create, that's about $115,000 a year, plus the $2,000 a month pension, plus Social Security. So if you desired to back down your savings to just Roths, the picture looks
Wow.
pretty good, right? But then we said, what if they get real crazy? What if they just
They
decide,
leave here like, wow.
these guys are awesome. We're not going to save any more money.
Yeah.
What if we just cut off the saving and all we did was just consume what we have right now and let our money work for us? What does that picture look like? And you can see that even without saving another dollar, you guys have done the hard work that if your portfolio could only earn 6% annualized over the next part of your working career, by the time you get to 60, you could still have a $4 million portfolio without saving another dollar. And that $4 million portfolio would generate for you about $107,000 in annual income. Now you got to factor in taxes and that sort of thing. But that's without, now, if I'm going to ask you to give me a probability, like I'm thinking of a percentage, I'm going to give you a probability. What is the probability you do not save another dollar for the remainder of your career?
0. That's an easy one.
Zero.
Yeah.
It's a zero, right? It's a zero. So I want to pause there for a moment because what we did is we started with what we think is an realistic expectation. We just kind of backed down to what we would call unrealistic conservatism. When we put that out there,
The 3D glasses plan,
that's
if you will.
exactly what it is. And we always start with the doo-doo. That's where we like to start because if you start there, when you get to down to earth, or if you even get to dream, it gets really exciting. Because we're going to show you that in a moment. But give us some feedback. Just seeing these numbers and based on your savings and income somewhere between $107,000 to $130,000 a year in today's dollars, how's that make you feel?
I feel pretty good about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel great about that because that says to me maybe we can pull back and start making more of those memories now with the kids while we still have them in the house, which is one of my goals. I just didn't want that goal to bite me in the butt later. So,
And for me, we have so many different little accounts. 457, 401k, 403b, 529s, 2 of those. And
It's seeing it
pension
all
here, pension there.
lumped together.
It's hard to grasp, are we doing enough when it's in 10 different, 12 different accounts?
Well, that's
But it's
one-
nice to see it consolidated.
One of the things that we love, most people fall into that situation. They're like, I've got all these different instruments and different pieces working together. Well, what we love in our day job, when we work with clients, when we get to actually sit down with them, is we get to show information like this. Hey, don't think about your account and this one and this one. If you think about the whole picture, is it all working together cohesively towards one common goal? And the common goal you've told us is security and stability. Not security in your 457 or in your 403, but for the enterprise, for the Patrick and Megan enterprise, are we moving towards the ultimate goal that we have? And what this shows me is that you are. Now, I just told you, this was the very conservative, right? Like this is, okay, what if we were to back down to savings and what if we were to only annualize 6%? We thought we would not be doing you a service though if we didn't show a realistic expectation of what it realistically probably could look like based on the way that you guys actually save. So we said, we know that over the last 15 years, your portfolio is annualized like 9+% if you look at the way it's currently structured. Well, maybe you decide that you're going to change your risk profile and you're going to back down the aggressiveness of your portfolio as you age. Or maybe you decide you want to hire a financial advisor and there's going to be some fee associated with that. We said, what if you just made 8% annualized? Not 6, but 8. How does that change that with the same savings? Look at what happens.
Yeah.
You start today with almost $1.8 million. By the time you get to 60, just saving the way that you're saving today, no pay raises, no increases, no bonuses. And if the market were to be kind and generate an 8% rate of return, which is more in line with what you've actually seen in your portfolio, now your portfolio by 60 is worth almost $6.4 million. And a $6.4 million portfolio at that time could generate almost $170,000. Remember that?
Nice.
That's
you remember
more than y'all make. And that doesn't take into account Social Security, pensions.
we wouldn't have to fly coach.
right? Like this provides the opportunity where you get to do what you want to do the way that you want to do it. So a lot of very bad things have to happen for your plan at this point to not work. You have to stop saving and the market has to not perform at minimal levels of viability. You guys are well on your way to financial independence without having to make any crazy wild adjustments. It's more about continuing to do the things that got you from where you were in 2008 till today, and from today into your great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
It is helpful to see everything condensed into one number because we have, like I said, so many little accounts. It's doing well, that's doing well, that's doing well. but if you put them together, is it doing enough? And I think that's the hard part for me, is how do you condense it into a number you can see?
Yeah.
And yeah, that helps a lot.
Now, I will tell you, because we always talk about there's three components to wealth. There's the make wealth phase, there's the maintain wealth, and then there's the multiply wealth. You guys crushed the make wealth phase. You didn't even give yourself enough credit as you're doing it. I think on the maintain, I would say part of this is just making sure, because with y'all's risk profile, you do want to make sure you take into account what y'all perceive as concerns with the portfolio, and get a good asset allocation that reflects your desires. That's all going to go into the risk mitigation of that, because that's why we do have diversification. I see so many people on social media saying just do VU for life, or just do any type of index fund, which you guys have tons of index funds, which we love index funds, but index funds don't have to only be equities. And I noticed y'all do have some bonds and other things, but it would be just making sure you're keeping an eye on that asset allocation.
Yeah, and that's definitely been something, again, that I've been struggling with, because I don't know as much about. I'm comfortable with the ETFs, the stocks, the VU, but I don't know as much about bond funds. My parents were all, CDs are the way to go. That's how they, and so they are not any help in that guidance either. And so, like, when I look at the different buckets, and I've heard, you should put different types of assets in each one, and I'm like, I don't quite understand. Is this ETF a dividend fund or not? So that's
and that gets into portfolio theory, which is so interesting, is because you would think, let's just keep it simple with just stocks and maybe a few bonds. But there's actually, when you add even some additional diversifiers like real estate, and, international, you'll have some of that as well. Some of the things that, even though they might perceived as risky, because they're diversifiers, they can actually help balance out the asset allocation and the portfolio for years to come. Yeah, there's nothing but blue sky for you guys. Okay. That's why I get so excited, because, and by the way, y'all would be such fun people, because I can already tell y'all have such heavy brakes. You need more gas in your life. You really do.
Yes.
And that's what you need, somebody that's every year coaching you is, hey, let's look at the portfolio. Let's run it back through the Monte Carlo simulations to stress test this thing, tell you your probability, because you need that to free yourself to let go of all the numbers. I mean, you really are the meme with the numbers just scrolling around in space all around you at all times.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, again, our whole past has been save some more, because you need it. You're going to need it. And I am worried that we're going to get to retirement, and then someone's going to be like, you should spend some of that. And we're going to be like, how about some rice and beans? That'd be great.
Well, that's one of our favorite things that we get to do as financial advisors, is coach our clients through that. Hey, it's okay if you take that trip. Hey, it's okay if you help your child with the down payment on their house. Hey, it's okay if you upgrade the car. Whatever that thing is for you, we've stress tested the plan, we've modeled it, we've put it in there. It's okay. And by the way, we have the portfolio design that if the 2008 happens again, you're going to be prepared for that. You're going to be well-weathered to be able to do that based on the plan and the strategy you have. You guys said something. You said early on in our life, we felt like we could depend on our parents, but now it's on us. We're doing this alone. And you're like, hey, I know equities, but I don't know bonds and I don't know asset allocation. You're saying all the key words of that might be the time that it does make sense to have someone partner with you so that you don't feel like you're doing it alone. So as you navigate towards your retirement, you're not just doing it with two people who've only ever retired one time. You're doing with someone who's walked through hundreds of retirements and seen hundreds of different success stories. I think he'd be a prime candidate for you guys.
No, well, we've definitely considered that. We worked with an advisor about 5 years ago who did help us at least get our wills and powers of attorney and all that set up. But then we kept them, and after a while, they weren't doing much for us because it was kind of set it and forget it. And so then we thought, well, we'll pull away from that, and maybe when we're 5 years out from retirement, we'll go back in. But then again, as things have grown, then I have worried maybe sooner would be better, because it is hard.
It's just gotten so complex.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's hard to know when to jump back in.
10% on $100,000 is different than a 10% on a $2 million portfolio. But what we want to do is we want to put you guys, because it was great. You put some stuff in there. So again, the theme of this is how can we put your mind at ease? How can you have security? And you gave us this section. We just labeled this these are my keep us up at night questions. These are the things that we struggle with. And we just want to say, if you were to give us a phone call and ask us these things, how would we respond to you? The first one is, what if the market doesn't perform as well? Well, one of the things, I don't even know if we need to talk about that at time because we just showed you in the iteration where the market, where your portfolio only makes 6% annualized. Based on the dollars you have and the way that you're saving, it's still a success. So you've built a plan around the very viability of the plan being the market underperforming. So if the market just average performs or if it outperforms, you're on easy street. So I think one of the ways that you offset the mindset of that is plan for the worst. Start with the do-do plan of the 3 Ds.
We're good at the do-do plan.
Right? And then what happens is you iterate and check it through time. Like, okay, well, last year we said the margin only makes 6% and it made 23.5%. Okay, that gives us a few years. That gives us a few years. That gives us a few. So that's how we walk through, okay, well, what if the market doesn't do as well? We do not, in our opinion, we do not care if 2025 outperforms 2024. What we care about is over the long term for our clients, for people that are investing, do they have a rate of return that will allow them to reach their goals? And we just showed you that even at something as low as 6%, you still reach your goals.
Well, I think like those first two questions are somewhat related to each other. Market doesn't perform well. Market loses 50%. You just went on different degrees of how bad that is.
And timing,
Sure.
though, because there is that concern that
But
that
I would
first
tell you,
year.
like an advisor, when I'm working with retirees or people close to landing the airplane at retirement, if the market loses 50%, you shouldn't lose 50%. That's why we do have asset allocations. We're not swinging for the fences anymore. You're hopefully going to you're going to lose 20%. And then I'm also going to make sure I structure your portfolio with somebody who spends like you, where this is why we always say the cash reserves. We like 3 to 6 months until you get close to retirement. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to boost that up to 18 months for some people, 36, depending upon their risk profiles. But I always look at clients' portfolios and I say, look, we're going to have an extra bit of cash for you. We're also going to have bonds and other super conservative and even some alternative asset classes that are going to be much safer or not as volatile as equities. I bet I can get you close to 10 years worth of cash flow before we'd have to sell any of those stocks that are down 40, 50%. Because a portion of your portfolio might be down 40 or 50%, but we won't have to touch that for 10 years. And from our experience, I mean, diversified portfolios, typically we're back to making money within 2 to 3 years from those horrible events of 2008 and beyond. Because real estate does have U-shaped recoveries, meaning you get crushed and then it might take years for the markets. Historically, stock market typically has V-shaped recoveries because what happens is that value gets disconnected from the prices that people are charged. And so the markets are pretty dynamic and efficient in trying to fix that. So you see much faster corrections, whereas real estate, because they're illiquid investments, you have to get capital markets, funding for real estate. You can have land just sit there for years on end because banks don't want to take the losses. There's all kind of weird dynamics that happen with real estate that cause it to drag bottom and have that U-shaped recovery.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the next question. What if our home value drops again? And this will sound insensitive. I don't mean for it to, but
I was thinking the same thing. I know what you're going to say.
So what?
Yeah.
Like, what if?
So what? Because you're living in this house.
Right? Like
Right.
If it's your home, does it matter? Warren Buffett gives the example of someone standing on your street. If you had a neighbor yelling out, hey, I'll pay you $10 million for your home, I'll pay you $10. If he threw out a number that was way too low, you just won't sell it. If those numbers way too high, then you might consider selling it. But if you're living there and it's a use asset, does the value of your home really matter to your financials viability?
And I guess in the past, our moves have been based on career
Jobs.
changes. But if we were in retirement, then you're right. We probably don't have quite that need to.
And y'all
need to
got
sell.
enough that's going to be. I mean, if you look at the value of your house in relationship to your net worth, what are we talking about here? It does. I mean, we're talking about rounding. It's more emotional for you guys.
Are you
than
telling
it's
us to buy a
actual
big,
factual.
nice house? What?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying that in relative to your total assets and net worth, it doesn't move the needle that much. So even if it went down 20, 30%.
As a
It's just
percentage of
not
our
changing.
overall net worth,
Yeah, it's just not
much.
changing.
Your
much.
kitchen's still going to cook dinner. You know what I mean? No matter what the value of the home is. How do we disaster-proof our retirement? We've already talked a little bit about that. One of the ways we prepare for folks getting in retirement is we want you to have tons of liquidity so that no matter what the market does, you are covered there. Appropriate asset allocation is the other way, right? Like if the market goes down 50%, you're in a retired portfolio, you should not be going down 50%. And the appropriate asset allocation will do that, the appropriate risk mitigation inside of the portfolio. And then one of the ways you disaster-proof is, and look, I hate to say this, but it's just a reality, you kind of over save and over. We showed you.
I know about
right?
that,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? We showed you that just based on what you're currently doing, you are on the trajectory where if the market performs relative to the way that your portfolio has been performing, it's like $170,000 of income on top of pensions, on top of Social Security. Well, one of the ways you disaster proof is you're not going to need all that. And so we have clients all the time that will retire and they'll get into retirement and they'll be like, guys, if I would have known it was this easy, I would have retired forever. I keep spending all this money. The portfolio keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, that's what happens when you have a portfolio of assets that more than sustain the lifestyle that you need. That's kind of what you guys are already on track for.
Y'all have an army of dollars that's probably going to work harder than you, as
That's
you
right.
saw. That's even no matter what's going on out there. And then I liked the next one. Then I know we get to a segue here. Buying a new car. If I had to guess, probably your advisor is going to be the one that's telling you, please go buy a new car more than you will. And this is once again a challenge to you guys as you leave here. Bo and I, forever, we called ourselves tightwads. And you guys probably at some point in your life, from right now, you might still resemble this. You call yourself a tightwad. I think
I like thrifty, but okay.
but you realize you reach a point once you start seeing your assets start growing and your money does work harder than you can. You realize you can't take it with you. And I would challenge you to make sure you're honing in. And this is why, when I wrote Millionaire Mission, those last two chapters were really about how I view money, and I want people to know what I now know. Once you get wealth, how do you maximize it for the memory building, for making sure that you don't have regrets at each decade that you're alive? And I'm not saying go hog wild, for all my 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds, but I do want people, after you've made the disciplined sacrifices and have started building the money, I don't want you to feel like you have to keep living off of that way that made you wealthy.
Okay. How dangerous is lifestyle creep then? If we were to let up the gas, because it looks like we probably could, and start spending more, how at this point in our life,
Is it lifestyle creep at this point though?
That's my
I don't know if you
is it, because I don't want to get I'm saying that we could easily, $8,000 be great in retirement. That's based on what we're spending now and us having a little extra for travel. But if we start living it up now, what if we want to live it up?
Well, in those go-go years, because those are the first few years you retire, it's not uncommon for my clients to actually spend more money than they were even making, because I want them to go maximize. Now, we stress test it every year. We're going and making sure and laying it next to and saying, hey, what's the probability that this thing keeps rocking and rolling? And if we have good years like last year, market made 20+%, and most of our clients, had double digits for sure. And we were like, yeah, let's go. That's the year. Let's go buy the car. Let's go on the trip, and then we'll come back next year and see what we need to adjust. Because human nature is, when markets get their teeth kicked in, we all pucker up really quick and we all quit spending money. That's actually why markets go down and everything, because everybody does the exact same thing. We're such herd animals that we all shut it down together. Yeah. So you're going to be okay, because when we do all these analysis, like with 4% withdrawal rates and even with the stress test, it cracks me up because I know that they're all ultra conservative just by anyway, because they don't reflect. They assume everybody's just spending
robots
every year the same way. And I don't know a single client, including myself, who does that, because we all shut it down when things get scary and we self-regulate that way. So you're going to be okay. And so I get excited. You probably should buy new cars. How old are y'all's current cars?
My last one I had for 13 years, but my current one is 3 years old.
Okay, that's a new car. 3 years old, a new car.
Well, I got it used, but
How about you, Patrick?
9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
So don't feel guilty for buying a new car.
Lifestyle creep is not bad. Lifestyle creep, when it goes unchecked, can be bad, but lifestyle creep is what we all ultimately want. Okay. None of us want to be living the same life at 60 that we were living at 20. I mean, we might want the same health and that kind of stuff, but hopefully our lifestyle does increase. That's why most of us desire to have a better lifestyle in the future than we had today, and a better one today than we had in the past. That's the idea of our money being a tool, allowing us to really enjoy the things that we want to enjoy and do with the things we want to do. So it's not bad. Lifestyle creep is an okay thing. Just too often people let the cart get way ahead of the horse.
Come on, bougie this thing up. Let's get y'all living it up a little bit more.
We've been bedazzling for 20 years, so that's a big mind shift.
I love
right
it.
there. But
I love it.
It could be fun. I will tell you, because my wife and I remember we did this is probably 3 years ago. We need to do it again. We did a 5-year travel goal. We did it as a date night, and it's kind of fun because money is not sexy by itself, but I think when you're doing money as a planning tool in a relationship to kind of daydream on what y'all want to do in life, that could be incredibly fun.
I remember
it really
those
could.
conversations when we were first married or even dating, like what we thought our life would be. And, it
Well,
was
in
a
the
lot of
beginning,
fun.
it's probably also you're restricting. You're like, how can we be more disciplined? Now, let's flip the script. How can we live more abundantly and do the things that really give us value and bring happiness?
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Patrick says, I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
It's hard to get him in sometimes. This is really good. So.
Well, he probably, because you're a good break. I can already tell you're very persuasive.
All he has to
this.
say is one little negative thing. I'm like, you're right. We should stop right now. So, yeah.
Another reason why having another voice help you guys could be an incredibly valuable thing to do. Another one of your sleep at night questions. This doesn't really keep me up at night. This is just like a what? What if we overfunded the 529s? So first of all, if the kids go to school in Georgia, Hope Scholarship, there's a good chance you could have overfunded the 529s. So I want to say this back to, what if we have too much money? That's what I want to reframe that. What if we have too much money for this goal that we have established?
What that highlighted to me was when I started feeling that about the 529s, it made me start thinking about maybe our retirement's on the same track. And then I was worried. Maybe we are saving too much. Maybe we're not living enough for today, because I don't want to get to that point and look back and be like, man, we should have gone on that riverboat cruise, or we should have done more traveling, or taken the kids to Disney and stayed at the top resort instead of the value resort. And so when I saw there are 529s that were looking like maybe those have been overfunded, I'm like, what if that's a symptom of a bigger problem? And so that kind of got me thinking about all of this.
You're probably nibbling on something that from a mindset issue that I would lean into.
And what I love about spending is you don't have to spend more all at once. You have to spend more forever. It's just like the Disney example. Okay, book a Disney trip and stay in the nice resort one time and see if you like it. You may decide, I didn't like that as much. I would rather go do a different trip or stay in a different resort.
That doesn't happen. It's just like, that's why I always tell people, I worry about people that go bougie too soon. You guys are not going to do that. So if you do kick it up on vacations, like you go on a cruise and you stay in a suite versus, just piling everybody in one room.
We went on a vacation last month with the kids, and it was a cruise, and all four of us were in an interior cabin.
See, what are y'all doing? I mean, that was, y'all probably were, the interior cabins are so cheap. Probably your grocery savings were the cost of the cruise. So that is not a vacation. That was just, you reallocated what you spend on daily life to staying on an interior room of a cruise ship.
Because 20 years ago, we lost a lot of money, right?
Before I give you guys your homework, any other questions for us? Anything else that we could speak to that'd be helpful for you guys to hear?
Okay, actually, yes, I do. With the steps of the FOO, that maxing out that retirement step, maybe that's a step of the past for us then, or?
I think it's a step where you guys, it is not required anymore for you to reach your financial independence goals. Okay. So you are probably in step 7, where you get to determine, is 25% saving something that we must be doing? Or have we defined now that we can actually back it down below 25% and we're still going to be okay? All right, here's your homework list.
All right, homework.
Only one logistical thing for you guys. Consider maybe consolidating your 403B. Paperwork, but it's a lot of paperwork, but it's not incredibly complicated. And then once you get that in one place, it does become a little bit easier to wrap your heads around. Maybe roll it into your current 401k or your IRA rollover. You can decide which one makes the most sense. I put a homework on it. Review your asset allocation. Is the risk profile of your portfolio, does it match where you guys are presently? Or do you find yourself, if the market were to go down 20% over the next year, would you freak out?
See, that's the thing. It doesn't bother me now because I know we have time. I know we're
still working.
Because we're still working. Yeah. The day we stop working, everything is going to switch. But for now, yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but as we get closer to retirement, I do feel like we're going to look for more professional help on management.
Sure.
Because it is very
How do you do the glide
high
path?
maintenance.
Yeah, the glide path, the maintaining we've figured out, obviously. But yeah, the gliding into retirement is definitely a different.
That is on the horizon, is getting help once we're closer.
Wonderful. And then the big one, the big homework for you guys, is you got to talk about what life do you want to be living today. We've already defined the life you want to live in the future and the steps that, the minimum level of steps that are required to get there. So are there things today that you want to be doing? Are there experiences you want to be having? How do you want to be saving? What are the ways you want to use your dollars today so that when you do get to the future, you don't look back and have regrets. Now, we're not telling you to stop saving money. You can keep saving as much money as you want. If you want to save 40%, that's great.
My kids are probably watching and thinking, yeah, keep saving because we'll inherit that someday. Like, no.
No, right? They're thinking, no, let's go with a nice, get us out of the interior cabin is what they're thinking.
My son's thinking that. My daughter's thinking long term. But anyway.
It's hilarious.
Well, it's funny you say that is because I'll always remind people, it doesn't matter if you're looking at Millionaire Next Door, you look at our own research from our clients, even Ramsey Solutions and their research. Somehow it always comes up that those millionaires are usually first generation out of that they found it. But the sad part of that stat is, and we've seen this too, is that typically the wealth disappears by the second generation 70% of the time, and then by that third generation, meaning the grandkids, it's 90%. So hopefully this scarcity that y'all have given your children, lifestyle with the interior cabins and stuff is going to pay dividends, and maybe they break that chain. But I will tell you, historically, your kids will have no trouble and your grandkids will have no trouble spending all this money. So you might as well take some time yourself, make some memories, get to see this stuff, and enjoy it as best you possibly can. And that's why I added a Brian honorable mention homework of forgive yourself. I want y'all to look at, I want you to get rid of that Eeyore hangover cloud from that real estate collapse and let it go. I mean, because it is, I don't know how many more Disney things I could put in there with let it go and everything else. But seriously, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Because y'all have done so well. And I don't want that one negative thing to define you on a career and a life of success. I mean, that is something to be celebrated, and I'm super happy for y'all's abundance.
It's one of the reasons we wanted to come on the show too, is to show people who do have problems when they're young that you can overcome them. I mean, it did take work, and it still stings. It will, but you can overcome things. Job losses or
Changes
stock
in
markets.
career.
Yeah.
Moving all over the country.
And that's the thing. We talked about how we daydreamed when we were first getting married. None of those things were on that list. Like, we're going to change, complete career paths and go move 3 states away and all the things that we've done. And
yet still, I bet the story's turned out even better than you thought it would.
It has, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That's why I'll close it out with this, is that and this is why I wrote an entire book full of mistakes that I've made. And you guys have been very transparent. Thank you for being willing to come on, share all of your success, but also be open about the things that keep you up at night. And I would encourage everybody out there to know you don't have to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And you can make lots of mistakes, but if you just get the basics, and that's one of the reasons I wrote Millionaire Mission. That's why we designed the financial order of operations. A little bit today, that small decision today will have huge results in the long term. So don't sleep on it. Make it happen. You can build your abundance. Bo, if somebody wants to sit down and be a part of Making a Millionaire, where can they go?
If you would like to be a guest on Making a Millionaire, you can go to moneyguy.com/apply. Or if you want to check out any of our free resources, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We have a blast creating this type of content. I'm your host, Brian Preston, with Mr. Bo Hansen. Money Guy team,